We are now within an entirely new media landscape, and you, the audience, as well as perhaps you, the brand, are the media. You all have a stake and a say. And so, as a brand, as a creator, especially a new media creator, a commentator, somebody who is a public figure, perhaps in business or in entertainment, who is much more vocal and in the public eye, or perhaps your brand is without your actual proactive doing so. For instance, you might be a celebrity or you might be well known for your work and your brand is out there subject to commentary. You're not actually doing any of the PR yourself, it's being done for you. And there's a lot of noise around you. And that's why it's really important for us to firstly listen to this episode and to ensure that you are putting these insights and takeaways that I'm about to give you into your mix when you are managing your reputation. Welcome back. I am Serena, and this is your weekly video on a Friday. A little bit more about me in just a moment. So let's get into these three main insights that I'm going to give you as we navigate this new media landscape where apparently you are the media too. So let's first go with the fact that we have to absolutely acknowledge the critical mass of new media engagement. Because it's so easy to say, oh, it's noise, we don't want to engage with it. But I've been saying repeatedly, when the noise gets to a critical mass, you absolutely need a strategy with how you're going to engage with it. So, with audiences increasingly acting as both consumers and creators, you have to engage with this shift. This has to be part of your planning and your thinking. Ignoring this volume of user generated content risks you losing relevance or perhaps being blindsided to any risks that you're not actually considering. So, as public perception is being shaped rapidly across platforms, you need to be aware. That's your very first insight. You've got to be aware of this critical mass of new media engagement, creation, and curation. Second, critically assess engagement demands. What does this mean? Well, while engaging with all feedback is necessary, now engaging means considering also, not necessarily outwardly communicating back with, but while it feels necessary, it's unsustainable and it's also risky. So you've got to prioritize meaningful interactions over noise if the noise isn't at a critical point, as in a critical mass point. So if you overengage, if you overengage with every comment or trend, so not just a comment about you, it could be a trend to do with your industry, your area, you can risk diluting your voice and exposing yourself to toxic discourse because there's plenty of that. So you've got to be very considered with the comments, the feedback you're willing to engage with publicly, but also the discourse within your area, within your arena. You've got to be selective. If you're a podcast producer, host, if you script videos for your client, just be aware. What do you want to talk about? For instance, if you're within the media and the politics arena, as I am for part of my content as a streamer on those matters, am I going to speak about everything that goes on in the media and politics landscape? No, I won't. Because you see, some areas are quite toxic. And do I want to take my audience on that trajectory when I'm sort of, my objective is to lead with critical thinking and insight and to sort of develop some kind of communication and dialogue with them, or do I basically entertain the toxic issues and the toxic trends and end up inviting a load of trolls in my comment section. So be very, very considered. The very last point on this video is you've got to shape your narrative amid the noise. Before I do that, if you're still listening and still watching, please do consider subscribing. I have 20 plus years of communications and comms experience. I'm a recent systems thinking, let's say, practitioner in training as I'm studying it as my MSc. I'm a chartered public relations professional, and I do many more things. And you can find out about all of that in the description. So let's get to this third point about shaping your narrative amid the noise. Proactively crafting content that aligns with your values, but recognize the challenge of competing with a very fragmented, user driven landscape. Okay, there are many narratives out there that are user driven and they're fragmented. So you've got to basically critically evaluate. And it goes to my second point about which trends you actually want to join. You know, which conversations are relevant to you and your brand. Can you engage with it authentically? Because often we can't. And we can't partake in every trend. Avoiding forced participation is very smart. You don't want to have to participate just because everyone in the comment section who you consider to be your community is asking you to do so. They're not the creator, they don't have the same sort of, let's say, the best way of saying they don't have the same dog in the race. It's not as risky for them as it is for you. So this is where you can't say yes every time. So avoid avoid forced participation that feels inauthentic, but oh my gosh, this bit opportunistic, when it's almost obvious that, oh, this creator, this person is jumping on that trend or jumping on that issue because there's an opportunity there. I've been actually accused of doing this because there's been something that's been quite topical within my arena, and of course I'm going to cover it. Now, someone who disagrees with what I'm saying is going to argue that I'm doing that purely for clicks, while somebody who's appreciating my commentary and analysis on my streaming channel will say thank you for covering this since it is so topical. So you're going to get criticism either way. But what you've got to do is just ensure that your intention to engage with that issue, with that trend, that topic, is sincere, is authentic. Of course, we all want eyeballs on our work. Of course, we want people to engage with it and we want to reach audiences. But the more you put out your content, the more you publish, the more evidence your audience and others, your unintended audiences, have for them to essentially put together a pattern of you, your interests, and your values. And so, you know, you've got to be quite careful, forecast, and go back. And you can just put things to private if you feel that they don't engage with you anymore. There's a lot of TikTok investigators and all kinds of working from home in their extracurricular time investigators who are willing and able and interested and have the absolute stamina to go through your archives of content and words and posts in order for them to build a picture which might actually be accurate. So you've got to be, let's just say, very careful with the body of work that you have as a creator out there in this new media landscape. We've got to call it something else. Give me your ideas. We can't call it the Wild Wild West. Got to call it something else. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. I hope this was useful to you. Thank you so much for listening. And if you would like to get more from me, there's links in the description. Go ahead and subscribe to my newsletter, and I'll see you in the next video.